What's up, gangsters? How about some minutes of random? And for this first bit, I'm going to see if I can adjust the camera so that I can zoom in on this thing behind me here. One of the things that I really wanted to accomplish with this new studio space was to have dedicated photography, a dedicated photography setup. And let's see if this will work. Maybe. Yeah, that's just not gonna. There it goes. Okay, so yes, not okay. This is terrible. Okay, there we go. What I'm trying to show you guys is this LED panel and that thing that it's mounted on. I know that some of you guys have bought these Yongnuo YN600s because they make great photography lights for model makers. But one of the things that I wanted to try and fix was I had them mounted to these gizmos that are clamped right here on the edge of the bench, and that was okay. That fixture was like 15 bucks on Amazon, and then I got that arm from Small Rig, and it took maybe, if you can see it, there's a little female adapter screwed onto the top of the clamp. I spent a lot of time getting all those parts together, and they work okay, but the problem is that they were just really always in my way. Like, I just couldn't use that part of my bench, and I was backing into them with my chair. So I wanted a little base that would let me slide those lights around wherever I wanted them when I was using them, and then out of the way when I wasn't. So I just diddy-bopped down to my local machine shop, and they had some, maybe you can see those here. I'll try to zoom in a little more. Yes, this is epically bad camera work, even for my epically bad camera standards. Anyway, that's just a 6-inch by 3/4 inch thick round cut from a piece of steel plate with a 1/4-20 hole drilled and tapped in the middle of it. And it weighs about 6 pounds, and that's just enough so that with some little felt buttons on the bottom of it, it'll slide all around the bench, and I can just keep my light attached to it permanently. So I think those are pretty cool. I'm really stoked about that. And I don't know if you can see it good enough, but I have a live rust reference always handy. So that's pretty cool, and I'm stoked about that. Okay, so carrying on here, I have been continuing to peruse this old book, and this has been kind of fun. This thing is clearly aimed at exactly who I was when I bought this book, which was like 10 years old. And this, you know, the thing that was really cool for me about this book is that it was the first sort of glimpse that I had into the idea that model making really could be a skilled exercise in craftsmanship. And I can remember some real light bulb moments. You'll probably get a laugh. Like, I remember when I read in here that you were supposed to actually cut parts off the sprue instead of just twisting them off. That was an aha moment. This book is what glimmered me to the idea that if you want things to look real and not like plastic, that you must paint them. So, you know, it was good in that respect, and I definitely learned a lot from this book. But, you know, reading it now, it's pretty astonishing how much some of these things have changed. Obviously, in the cements and bonding section, we didn't have Tamiya Extra Thin back in those days. So that's a major change for the better. I'm into this chapter now on paint, and this has been kind of fun because back in the day, there were basically like two kinds of paint. You could buy testers or you could buy Humbrol. I guess there was Pactra and Floquil as well. They talk a little bit about those, but there just really weren't a lot of options. And just as a comparison the other day, just to see how many I could come up with, I sat down and made a list of all of the different paint lines that are available now, and I think I stopped counting at 50. So that's also been a change for the better. It's definitely got some bad information in it, at least as far as modern standards will go. This is, I think we can see possibly the origins of the acrylic household wax legend, aka Future. And yeah, this is one that just always makes the hackles on the back of my neck stand up, because wait, are your hackles on the back of your neck or are they someplace else? Never been really clear about that. Anyway, wherever they are, my hackles are aroused when I see Future or anything like it called a wax, because it definitely is not a wax. And that really wouldn't make much difference, and I'm sure that it's, these guys are not to blame for that, because I'm certain that the makers of said substance were the ones who called it a wax. But waxes are very specific. They have to be able to melt, as in a candle. And, acrylics don't, at least not in this form. And, I'm always afraid that some poor sucker is going to read about an acrylic household wax and then, being unable to find Future, is going to buy something that actually is wax and create some sort of a disaster. And I've actually seen people ask about that in model making groups. So I'm always, I'm that guy who's like, Future's not a wax. Anyway, this is definitely, anyhow, enough about that. It's also kind of funny to see, the gross application of putty with a toothpick. But, the fact that he's using a lacquer-based spot glazing compound, that's carried through to modern times. We all still know and love that stuff. So anyway, this has been kind of fun. I'm going to keep going through it. This one particular section right here, let's see if I can find it, I thought was pretty neat. And I remembered this from when I was a kid. This guy right here. This guy is actually brush painting, and yes, including brush painting a layer of said wax on his model, but not for the number one reason most people say they want to do that, which is prior to decals. I'm pretty sure we're going to get to that discussion in this book too, but because he uses it as a final clear coat and sands it out so that he makes this brush paint job actually look pretty impressive. I mean, that's good quality work no matter how it gets done. So anyway, I thought that was kind of neat. I don't know that I would be trying that, but I have entertained the idea of maybe doing a project where I use only what I can find in this book. I don't know, might be kind of fun. Anyhow, other stuff that's happening. I got this really cool thing here. This is a bust. I know some of you guys have been seeing this thing appear because several other people have gotten it too. This is being sold now. You can buy this from James Rice over at Sabo Miniatures. But it originated as a file that you could buy on My Mini Factory. And this is artwork that's created by a guy named Laven Archer. And he does really cool stuff. I mean, you can see the level of detail and just the realism. I mean, this thing is just super cool. Anyway, you could buy the STL file and download it for $9, which is what I did. And then Patrick Perales printed it for me, and he printed this on his Elegoo Saturn, which, if you're keeping up with 3D printers, is a larger format SLA printer, and does it's amazing. He printed this one at 0.02 millimeter layer thickness. And you can see, I mean, the detail is really fantastic. It's got, it's got some build artifacts. I think you'll be able to see them on the forehead if you look really close. Get in the right light. Maybe you can see, yeah, right there you can see. But look, some of that is just always going to be unavoidable because, between the fact that each layer is a group of square pixels and the fact that you've got the layers themselves, build artifacts are just always going to be a thing. But they don't tend to show up very much on stuff that's got organic surfaces like a figure, which is why 3D printing is just so perfect for, for that genre. So anyway, this is pretty cool. This is going to be a thing here before too long whenever I decide to get started on it. Yes, he does have an arm and a big, giant, choppy axe. So I think he must be like 1/6 scale, whatever. He's pretty big and pretty burly, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to paint. Speaking of having fun painting, I have been doing a shit ton of that because I've been working steadily on the Hasegawa 132nd P40 for quite a while now, because I've just really been enjoying it and got way deep into it, which, as I will explain, kind of also puts me in the danger zone, and I think it's probably time for me to take a break because I'm getting stupid. Maybe I've always been stupid, I don't know, but at any rate, this thing has come a long way, and I'm mostly pretty stoked about it. And it's been fun because I have not been in this mode of painting on an aircraft model for like a year. I just, had other things going on, and so it's just good to be back in my happy place, and I've been having a lot of fun. This thing, I'm doing this as a fictional color scheme, what I call a could have been, maybe should have been, because one of the first things you'll notice is the sort of more modern looking skull. This is supposed to represent an aircraft that could have been in the Burma Banshees, which was the 80th Fighter Group. They had 3 squadrons. Not all of them had skulls. A lot of them did. Some of them had shark mouth motifs. Some of them had none of the above. But the original, or I say original, most of the shark mouth, or not the shark mouth, but the skulls were painted by one guy, and apparently there was one dude in the squadron or the group who apparently thought he could paint, and yeah, anyway, all of the skulls look pretty much like this one that's on Lulubelle, and I wanted the skull. I love the skull motif, but for starters, having the exhaust pipes coming out of the eyeball just was not working for me, and I just really didn't want to do it. And so I figured that since I was going to be doing my own color scheme, and that I was going to be doing artwork for masks anyway, that I might as well just make my own skull. And I was in a little bit of a quandary about what to do. And then I did some more research, and I actually found this one pimp who clearly was like, yeah, dude, you're not painting anything on my plane. And his skull was much better and much more talented, maybe. I don't know is the right word. Anyway, so that kind of gave me license to do my own thing. And so I found some artwork on the old interwebs, absconded with it off to Photoshop, did a bunch of changes. It actually had a pair of headphones on to start with, and turned it into this. It's still pushing the limits of what is, maybe reasonable for 1944, but I think it looks pretty cool. I'm having fun with it. I did this all with masks that I created and cut on my Silhouette Portrait 2, and it actually all went much better than expected. I was really worried that I was going to be able to get good, clean cuts, for that really delicate outline around the teeth. And they actually, it was actually no problem. So anyway, that's been coming along pretty good. What's not coming along so good is this is where I got myself into trouble. So there's a couple of things that I'm trying to do here. This aircraft is going to be beat to shit because a lot of these aircraft in the 80th Fighter Group were just ass whipped. I mean, these guys were operating from dirt fields out in the middle of nowhere, and the aircraft just, they got filthy and beat up. And so one of the things that I thought I would tell, little stories that I thought I would tell is, from all of the walking that's going on as these guys go out here to load the ammo belts for the machine guns, is all this paint getting, beat down and degraded to include the insignia. And to me, that's a pretty obvious story, and I've tried to show that, that it's happening right here next to these access hatches. And there's a little bit of a closer look, so you can kind of make your judgment yourself based on what I'm about to tell you. Anyway, the other spot is right here. This hatch, I think, gets you to the oxygen tanks. And so those, the ground crew guys are in and out of that all the time, and they can only get to it from the right because of this part of the wing right here. And I've even got a picture of a guy who's half in and half out of that. So I'm like, all right, well, that paint could easily get scuffed and rubbed off just right there in that area. And so what I did is, as I've done with a lot of the paint degradation work on this thing, is a lot of sanding, micro sanding with this thing, which you guys know is one of my favorite instruments, a little sanding sponge in my gripper tweezers. Also been using my Infini sanding sponges a lot. They're fantastic. And one of the things that I love about lacquers is that they're just so sandable. And I believe that it makes a very authentic finish for chipping. All of this chipping work is basically, I did the sanding first to expose the zinc chromate yellow primer, which didn't have any hairspray on it, and then did the chipping to reveal the aluminum underneath where I did have hairspray. And I really think that that's an authentic effect. I don't know how much more realistic you're going to get than that. So anyway, that's what I did in these areas. The problem is, I posted some pictures, and just noticed, this thing has been a running battle with ghost seams. And I just noticed that, I think I showed you guys this on the last episode of this, that I had a little bit of one going on over here, which I fixed. I've been fighting it around the back edge of this insert for the rear glass. Finally pretty much got that worked out. Looks like I may need to do a little bit of work on that one. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of convinced that some of this is a temperature effect because this thing gets blasted by sunlight in the morning coming through my east window right there next to me. And it gets pretty warm. And I've noticed, like a week or so ago, I came in here and all of a sudden, the ghost seam that I thought I had fixed right here was just popping like crazy. In fact, you can see a little bit of it right there next to that insignia. Anyhow, it's been super discouraging because it's been such a pain in the ass. Anyhow, I swear that seam was not showing the day before, and I really wonder if maybe getting that warm is not what's caused those to suddenly decide to reveal themselves. I don't know. It's a hassle. But anyhow, so when I posted these pictures of these on Scale Modeler's Critique Group yesterday, I immediately had 3 or 4 guys who were like, I'm not buying it. It doesn't look right. It looks more like, to me, like a masking fail. And this baffles me because trust me, I've had enough masking fails. In fact, I had one on the skull right here where a bit of it lifted right at the edge when I pulled the mask off, and I had to go back and fix that. And this doesn't look anything like that, especially when you look at the whole thing and you see all the edges around it are pretty much perfect. And then when you see like the small chips in the middle of this area and just kind of the pattern that's going on there, same thing here. I would never look at that and immediately think that's a masking problem. And I'm just kind of baffled, honestly, as to how anybody sees that. But having said all of that, I am going to go back and fix or change whatever, at least this one, because the bottom line is that, it's not working. There's just times when you have to just accept that nobody's buying what you're selling, and that seems to be the case with this one. Somebody brought up that this was kind of like when I did the invasion stripes on my Spitfire a couple of years ago. And I think this might even be worse because we all kind of know about invasion stripes and how some of them were done, you know, with mops and brushes and whatever, and that they were really sloppy and uneven. That's a thing. Everybody knows that. But I feel like maybe I'm trying to tell a story here that maybe not everybody's comfortable with. Like nobody really wants to, you know, believe that insignia got tromped on and roached out like that. I don't know. Anyway, it just doesn't seem like it's really going to work, and I just have to suck it up and get out the sandpaper and fix that shit. And I think that's about enough random for now. So, see ya. Okay, one more thing, because what the heck, this is my favorite thing. I was sitting here rubbing on this newly arrived ghost seam, and just to say, this is, honestly, I've been able to deal with some of this simply by sanding them out. Sometimes I go through the paint, sometimes I don't. Anyway, you know, just a little bit of that action pretty well took care of that one. At least I think it did. It's maybe still showing a little bit right here. But point being is why I decided to come back and say some more is because I'm going to come back and respray that one little goober with Frankenbrush, which I told you guys in the last episode of Random that I was going to be building, and that's this thing right here. So I did in fact get it all put together. I have a video that I've made of all of this, and but the bottom line is, this is my new favorite thing. I now have a true 0.2 millimeter needle trigger style airbrush, and it has been working absolutely fantastic. If you like the trigger style airbrush and you want something that gives you kind of the control of something like a Sotar or a Procon Boy PS770, this is it right here. I love it. It's like I'm almost happy when I have to fix something like this because it's just so easy with this.